Good day, my dear students. Are you ready to learn? For this day, our lesson will be all about the introduction to pharmaceutical botany. The course code for this subject is PH Biosci 1, which is a 5-unit subject having 3 hours lecture and 6 hours laboratory per week. So all in all, 54 hours lecture and 100 hours laboratory per sem. This subject is an extensive presentation of plant life and related living forms inclusive of morphoanatomy and hierarchical organization and its value as an integral part of ecosystem and of course pharmaceutical field. So at the end of the semester, each student must acquire the knowledge of structures, development, and classification of plants. Students are also expected to appreciate the significance of plants to the environment and the economy, and also recognize the importance of botany in pharmacy and other related fields. Okay, so first let's define what botany is. So, botany is the oldest science about edible, medicinal, and poisonous plants. It is the scientific study of plants and plant-like organisms. The first writings that show human curiosity about plants appears in the teachings of Aristotle's student named Theophrastus in ancient Athens in about 300 BC. Okay, now let's talk about pharmaceutical botany. From its name, pharmaceutical pharmaceutical botany considers plants or their parts with reference to their use as drugs. The pharmaceutical botany is one of the base subject of pharmacognosy. So in here, the students learn to observe the important characteristics of medicinal plants. By this knowledge, pharmacists will be able to distinguish medicinal plants from species that are not used in therapy. In general, the study of plant science is derived from four big ideas in biology. So let's have it one by one. Number one, big idea number one is the process of evolution drives the diversity and unity of life. Okay, they say that land plants evolved from algae. The selective pressures of living and reproducing on land drove the evolution of plants from simple non-vascular plants to modern flowering plants. It is therefore from simple living organisms that evolved to complex flowering plants. Number two big idea is biological system utilize free energy and molecular building blocks to grow, to reproduce, and to maintain dynamic homeostasis. So here, many examples of plant concepts reside. Okay, so we have, for example, photosynthesis, carbon and nitrogen cycles, the role of cell walls, of course, response of our plants to changes in environment, homeostasis, and etc. So let's take for example photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, they utilize sunlight, the free energy from the sun to generate glucose and oxygen, which is also essential in other life forms on earth. Okay, number three big idea is living systems store, retrieve, transmit, and respond to information essential to life processes. Okay, a good example of transmission of information by plants is the communication between plant cells via plasmodesmata, or of course the different plant hormones. Okay, sexual reproduction in plants is also one. Number 4, big idea: biological systems interact, and these systems and their interactions possess complex properties. Okay, so here we are talking about the interaction among organelles, okay, including plant-specific ones like your chloroplasts and central vacuoles. Okay. We also have another form of interaction among plants, the interaction between organ system, in which, okay, example, yung the root that absorbs water and nutrient from the soil, and then it will be absorbed by the roots, and then it will be passed on to the different parts of the plant. We also have food chains and webs. Okay, so those are examples of biological system interaction by plants and other systems. Maybe move on now to the scientific method. Okay, the study of plant life can be clearly understood as we study also the different theories that supports the ways and mechanisms of how these organisms exist. So let's have an overview of the scientific method. The early studies of explaining the universe and its phenomena made use of three principles, and these are religious methods, metaphysical system, and speculative philosophy. So as you can see, these methods are still unacceptable since it cannot really explain everything. Okay? Until a new method called scientific method began to develop. So in scientific method, all accepted information can be derived from carefully documented and controlled observations or experiments. Okay? So the claims emanating from deities, priests, prophets, and revelations cannot be accepted automatically. They must be subjected to verification and proof. So this now separates science from religion. Secondly, only phenomena and objects that can be observed and studied are dealt with. So the claims of supernatural forces that cannot be seen or physically felt or tested must be rejected. Third one, all proposed explanations of natural phenomena must be tested and verified. So if they cannot be tested by currently available means, they must be viewed with skepticism. Scientific studies take many forms, but basically, they begin with a series of observations, followed by a period of experimentation, mixed with further observation and analysis. So at some point, a hypothesis or model is constructed to account for the observations. Now, if a hypothesis continues to match the observation, we have a greater confidence that it is correct, and it may come to be called a theory. So, overall, the scientific method is the combination of observation, experimentation, and the formulation of those hypotheses and theories. Okay, so there are three main steps in the scientific method. Number one, making observations by data collection. So this is by collecting first significant data about your target observation. Number two, suggesting a possible explanation, and this can be called as hypothesis. And third one, of course, is to conduct experiments to test the possible explanation. Here are the fundamental concepts to further understand plants. So, concept number one is that plant metabolism is based on the principles of chemistry and physics. So, some aspects of a plant growth, development, and response to its environment can seem almost magical and supernatural, but they never are. All the principles you learn in your chemistry or physics classes are completely valid for plants. Number two concept, plants must have a means of storing and using information. So, example, after a seed germinates, it grows and develops into a plant, becoming larger and more complex. Then, again, it reproduces. All this is possible because the plant is taking in energy and chemical compounds and transforming them into the organic chemical compounds it uses to build more of itself. So, this requires a complex, carefully controlled metabolism, and there must be a mechanism for storing and using the information that regulates that metabolism. Number three concept, plant reproduce, passing their genes and information on to the descendants. Okay, because an individual obtains its genes from its parents, the information it uses to control its metabolism is similar to the information its parent had used. Thus, the offspring and the parents resemble each other. So, for example, a tomato seed contains genes whose information guides the seed's metabolism into constructing a new tomato plant. But a pea grows into a pea plant because it received different genes and information from its parents. Okay, so that is the example of how plants reproduce and pass on their genetic information to their descendants. Number five, plants must survive in their own environment. So they must be adapted to the conditions in the area where they live. Okay, like for example, cactus. Cactus grow only in deserts, while other plants like orchids, they are aerial, which means to say that they only grow and survive in an aerial environment. Okay. Number six concept, plants are highly integrated organisms. So, the structure and metabolism of one part have some impact on all of the rest of the plant. Number seven concept, an individual plant is a temporary result of the interaction of genes and environment. So, we must be careful to consider the differences between an individual plant and that plant species. Number 8 concept, plants do not have purpose or decision-making capacity. Okay, so unlike other organisms like human being, we are capable of making our own decision because we have complex organization system. But for plants, they do not have this nervous system to make their own decision. Okay? In addition to that, there are also some characteristics of plants that differentiate them from other organisms. Okay, so what are these characteristics? Okay, number one, plants are multicellular eukaryotes. Okay, multicellular, which means to say that they are composed of many cells, and their cells have a nucleus which contains the DNA. Okay, that makes them eukaryotic cell. So again, plants are multicellular eukaryotes in which they are composed of many cells from the term multi, and their cell walls have a nucleus which contains the DNA. Number 2 characteristic, almost all plants are capable of photosynthesis. Okay, and because of this characteristic, the plants are said to be autotrophics or autotrophs. Okay, they are said to be autotrophs in which they can make their own food. So this characteristic distinguishes plant from other organisms like mushroom. Okay, mushroom is a type of fungi. It is not a plant. Number 3, plants have cell walls composed of cellulose. Okay, so what is cellulose? Cellulose in plants is also known as fiber. So this is a chain of glucose molecules that gives structure and support to the cell walls. Okay, number 4 concept, plants have two adult forms. Okay, so what are these? Okay, we have the spore and the pollen and egg. Okay, the spore is the reproductive cell that can reproduce asexually, whereas your pollen is the one that fertilizes egg to produce an embryo that develops into an adult. So the two adult forms of plants are the spore and the pollen and egg. Okay, number 5, plants have a multicellular embryo protected within the female parent. Okay, so this prevents embryo from drying out. This is also a characteristic of the plant that distinguishes them from algae. Okay, maybe move on now to the importance of plants. But before that, let's understand first the different relationship, the different plant and animal relationship. Okay, mutualism. Okay, so mutualism is if the interaction between species is beneficial, wherein both the organism benefit from each other. That is mutualism. Second one is competition. Okay, so it can be seen as disadvantageous. Okay, next is commensalism, in which one species benefit and the other one is unaffected. So this is common between plants and animals. Okay, like for example, we take in oxygen from plants, but as we take in oxygen, the plant is not affected. So that is commensalism. Next is predation. Predation, when one organism directly kills and consumes its prey. And then lastly, we have parasitism. Okay, so this is the relationship exemplified by mistletoe growing on a tree. Okay, so the mistletoe growing on a tree acts as a parasite to the plant. Okay, so maybe move on now to the importance of the plant. So as you can see in the picture, there are different applications of plants the in human life. Okay, so the first picture, you can see that plants can be applied or used in perfumery, wherein Most of the time, they utilize volatile oil and other essential oils to manufacture perfumes and use as flavorants as well. Okay, we also use plants as our food sources as seen on the picture. Okay, that one, coffee, and of course wood for housing and shelter. And the most important one in the field of pharmacy is the application of plants as natural sources of drugs. So later on in your pharmacognosy subject in your second year, you will be studying more on the different natural sources of drugs. Okay, so we derive majority of our drugs from plants and other natural sources. Okay, since we are dealing with pharmaceutical botany, may we have now the different plants utilized for use as a medicinal agent. Okay, so we have different plants now being used as natural sources to treat different kinds of diseases. Okay, but we only have here 10 approved medicinal plants by the Department of Health. So, we have Acapulco or Cassia alata, Ampalaya, Momordica charantia, Bawang, Allium sativum, Bayabas, Sidium guajava, Lagundi, or scientifically named as Vitex negundo, Nyognogan, Quiscalis indica, Sambong, Blumea balsamifera, Tiaanggubat, Eresia microphylla, Ulasimang bato or pansit-pansitan, Peperomia pellucida, and of course, Yerba buena. So in order for you to memorize these 10 medicinal plants, I made use of the acronym BABY plants. Okay, so B stands for bawang, A for Acapulco, B for bayabas, Y for Yerba buena, P for pansit-pansitan, L for lagundi, A for ampalaya, N for nyog-nyogan, T for tiaanggubat, and S for sambong. So, you have to memorize baby plants. These are the 10 approved medicinal plants. Okay, so what are the uses of each plant? Okay, for Acapulco, it is mainly used to treat ringworms and skin fungal infections. Okay, yung mga sakit sa balat that is caused by fungi. Okay, next is ampalaya. Ampalaya is commonly named as your bitter gourd or bitter melon. So, it is used as a alternative treatment for diabetes mellitus. Okay, this is only applicable for non-insulin dependent patients. Next, we have bawang. Okay, bawang is scientifically named as Allium sativum or popularly known as garlic. So the main use of garlic is to reduce cholesterol in the blood. Hence, they are also used to control blood pressure. Next is bayabas. Bayabas is guava in English, and again, it is primarily used as antiseptic. So when we say antiseptic, these are the substances that are used to kill microorganisms or microbes. Lagundi. Lagundi is mainly used for the relief of cough and asthma. We also have nyog-nyogan. Nyog-nyogan is also known as Chinese honeysuckle, and it is effective in the elimination of intestinal worms. So, this is very effective in treating parasites, particularly ascaris and trichina or trichina. So, it is mainly used to eliminate parasites in the body. Okay, next is sambong. Sambong is Blumea balsamifera. Okay, it is used as diuretic that helps in the excretion of urinary stone. So, when we say diuretic, these are agents that increases urination. So, they are used to treat some conditions like manas and kidney stone. So, when you take in diuresis, it is expected na ihi ng ihi yung pasyente. Okay? Number 9 is ulasimang bato or pansit-pansitan. It is effective in fighting arthritis and gout. So, ginagamit siya to treat arthritis and gout. And then lastly, we have yerba buena. Okay, so those are the 10 approved medicinal plants by the Department of Health. So you can use the acronym baby plants in order to familiarize yourself. Okay, so last topic for introduction is the fields or the different fields of botany. Okay, so this is just basic. Okay, so there are different fields of botany. There are a lot, but I only chose the most common one. Okay, so first we have plant anatomy. So plant anatomy is concerned with the internal structure of the plant. So it is more on the study of the stems, roots, leaves, and tissues. Okay? So the very significant person behind plant anatomy is Marcello Malpighi, okay, an Italian who discovered the different tissues in stems and roots. We also have Nehemiah Grew. Nehemiah Grew is another botanist who described the structure of wood more precisely than any other predecessors. Okay, so another field of botany is plant physiology. Okay, when we say physiology, we deal on functions. Therefore, plant physiology is concerned with plant function. So again, the most important person behind plant physiology is J.B. van Helmont. He is a Flemish physician and chemist who was the first to demonstrate that plants do not have the same nutritional needs as animals. So, when it comes to nutritional requirements and nutritional metabolism, plant and animals are different. The third field of botany is plant taxonomy. So this involves describing, naming, and classifying organisms. So under plant taxonomy is plant systematics. Okay, so it is related field to taxonomy, in which it is a science of developing methods for grouping organisms. So plant taxonomy is the oldest branch of plant study. Okay, next we have plant ecology. Okay, so this field of botany is the study of interaction of plants with one another and their environment. So this began because of the writings of Rachel Carson entitled Silent Spring, wherein it highlights the field of ecology in his writings. Okay, next we have morphology. Morphology is the study of the form and structure of plants. Okay, next one is genetics. Okay, so we all know that genetics is the science of heredity. Okay, so the most important person behind genetics is Gregor Mendel. Okay, so under genetics we have two sub field. we have plant breeding and genetic engineering, in which your genetic engineering includes the transfer of genes from one organism to another. So nowadays, there are a lot of genetically engineered plants, and it is because of the field genetic engineering. Okay? Next is cell biology. So this is previously known as cell. The study of cell is cytology, right? So cell biology, the science of cell structure and function. So this is the study of plants in cellular and molecular level. Your cell biology or cytology. And then lastly, we have economic botany and ethnobiology. So this focuses on practical uses of plants and plant products. So from the term economic, we also have phytopathology. Phytopathology, okay, because of the term patho. Patho means diseases. Phyto is plant, patho is diseases, which means to say that your phytopathology deals with the study of different plant diseases. We also have phytogeography or plant geography, which treats the distribution of plants upon the earth. Okay? And then geological botany or phytopaleontology. So these study plants on former ages of the Earth's history traceable in their fossil remains. So this focuses more on extinct plant species, phytopaleontology. Economic or applied botany. Okay, so in this field, economic or applied botany deals with the science from practical standpoint, showing the special adaptation of the vegetable kingdom to the needs of everyday life. So under applied botany, we have pharmaceutical botany. So pharmaceutical botany is under applied botany. Okay, so our focus here in pharmaceutical botany is the application of different plants as medicinal agent. Okay, so that would be all for the introduction of botany. Okay, if you have questions, feel free to ask. We will schedule our Zoom meeting on Tuesday so that you can raise your question regarding this topic. Good day and God bless.